Tanner? Gentleman here.
Ian Schellenberger.
It's good call, Molly.
Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Tell me your title again. Transportation planning.
Transportation planner.
Transportation planner, and he's going to provide us updates on not just the Navarre Community Access Road, but other South End projects.
And I apologize, this may be a little slow. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and Ms. Harper does have a copy of it that's available, and I'll leave some business cards for Ms. Harper as well, and certainly send me your contact information, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of the presentation as well.
It's okay.
All right, as Ms. Harper said, my name is Sean Ward. I'm the transportation planner with Santa Rosa County. I've been with the county for about 11 years now, working on everything from land use planning to transportation planning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically run through some US 98 projects. I know that you're certainly here tonight for the Community Access Road and what you've been hearing, what you've been seeing regarding that. But I want to go ahead and fill you in. We got a lot of great things going on US 98, everything from the replacement of the 3-mile bridge all the way across to the Okaloosa County line. So basically a little bit of a brief history on US 98. In 33, the US 98 was established as a route between Pensacola and Apalachicola. If you go down to the corner of Gulf Breeze at the shoreline right there, there's actually a plaque that's dedicated that talks about this route. It is basically westward from Mississippi to South Palm Beach with 671 miles in the state of Florida alone. And then it runs pretty much in the Gulf Coast along the coast. So here on 98, you're adjacent to the water on the Sound. Same thing as you go on down towards the east of us through Fort Walton Beach and on down. So taking a look at local needs, one of the things we did recently, and I'll touch on, is the South Santa Rosa Bicycle Pedestrian Plan. And part of that is what we did was we went through and took a look, and this is actually available online. So if you go into Google, you go online and you type FDOT online traffic, okay? It's going to take you to an interactive website that you can pull up these numbers and see. And I know it's hard for you to understand where you're sitting at, but basically if you get east of 87, you're looking at about 41,000 average daily trips. It goes down to 35,000 in around the Holley by the Sea area, in between there. And then it picks back up as you head back towards Gulf Breeze. One of the things that we did was we wanted to take a look at what type of crash analysis that we have on US 98 when we went into the bike ped plan. So if you take a look, this is from January the 1st of 2006 to October the 30th of 2014. We have 28 fatalities on US 98 alone, and this is in the section identified there. So you're looking at from the Gulf Islands National Seashore all the way to the Okaloosa County line and up a little bit off of 87. One of the other things we looked at was bicycle pedestrian crashes. Okay, so from that same time period of 06 to 2014, we had 117 crashes, 6 bike fatalities, and 12 pedestrian fatalities. Okay, that is a lot. US 98 was at one point called Bloody 98. You drive in it daily, you're aware of it, you know what's going on out there. So, as we get into a roadway project, any project, whether it comes from the state, whether it comes from the county, whether it's federal funds or whatever, okay, one of the things we're going to have to look at is who pays for it. Is it state funds? Is it federal funds? Local funding? A grant match? Discretionary funds are pretty much gone from the federal government, so those aren't there anymore. We also look at impact fees and tolls. For every process, okay, each one of these is a phase. So you're going to look at your project development and environmental, your design, your right-of-way, your construction. A lot of times when you get funding and it comes through, you're going to get PD&E funding only. Okay? You might get design funding, you may get construction funding, or you might get right-of-way funding. They're all separate processes. Everybody's complaining about Avalon Boulevard right now, and I'm going to use this as an example. Avalon Boulevard was actually broken into segments. And what happened was when we started Avalon Boulevard, we obtained the funding for one segment first, we obtained the funding for the second one, and then on down the line. That's why it was done in portions, and that's why it's taken so long to accomplish that project there. So current projects, getting into that. The Pensacola Bay Bridge right now, it's a $518 million project total, okay? It's the largest roadway project in Northwest Florida that we've ever seen. Its construction was funded in the beginning is in 2017, so that's construction. We've already gone through the PD&E phase, we've gone through the design phase, we've gone through the right-of-way phase, and we're looking at construction beginning in 2017. It's a new 6-lane facility with bike ped features, and I have a picture of that coming up. The Transportation Planning Organization has established a maintenance of traffic operations agreement with all the municipalities. We're going to meet probably once a month with the mayor, both mayors, county staff, representatives, and we're going to take a look. What's working? What's not working? What does the contractor need to fix? We're going to try to ease up any type of traffic congestion and things going through the Pensacola Bay Bridge as they're replacing that project there. So this is kind of hard to see, but this is basically the rough draft diagram. So you're looking at 3 facilities with 12-foot lanes, travel lanes, a breakdown lane, and then a protected bicycle pedestrian feature that's going to go all the way across the bridge. So it's going to tie into on Pensacola side and into the Gulf Breeze side there. US 98, Bayshore Road to Portside Drive. Okay, so this is going from the Gulf Islands National Seashore just past the Garcon Point Bridge there. This project has already been designed. We are actually under the right-of-way purchase. They're purchasing ponds and areas, properties for ponds and things at about $2.8 million there. It's a $12 million total cost for that project, and the construction for that is currently not programmed. Okay, so within our 2040 plan that we have, we just adopted through the Regional Planning Council, is a 2040 plan. So through that plan, we're showing that US 98 will be cost feasible. So hopefully DOT will come up with that funding somewhere in the future so we can go ahead and continue on with that project. That project right there will have bicycle pedestrian facilities on it. So one of the things that DOT has said, and in the state of Florida, is anytime we add a capacity project, we're going to add bicycle lanes and we're going to add sidewalks. They know, looking back at those 28 fatalities there, that they want to reduce that. That's something we don't need. It's always great to be on a list and #1, but it's not great to be in the state of Florida and #1 at the number of bicycle pedestrian fatalities in the state, and actually within the country there. All right, so current projects moving from Portside Drive, Garcon Point, coming back. Beginning this summer, we have a PD&E study. That's for the 6 laning of US 98. That's right out here. It's going to basically go from Portside Drive all the way to Mary Esther Boulevard in Okaloosa County. Our segment is to the Okaloosa County line, and then it picks up as another project from Okaloosa County line onto Mary Esther Boulevard. They also have, so that one again, anytime they widen it, you're looking at bike lanes, you're looking at sidewalks. We're within an urbanized area, so we can certainly appreciate that. State Road 87. I drove it this afternoon coming down here. It's great. You can see where they're starting to clear it out and getting ready to widen that project. It's going to be widened and 4-laned all the way up to Highway 90 and Interstate 10 right there. So all of that will be completed and finalized. And then, of course, the Escambia Bay Bridge to Avalon Boulevard. They're also in that process right now. If you've driven the interstate lately, you know that Scenic Highway in that area is a mess where they're currently widening. They're also in the process of widening 6 lanes of capacity from the Escambia Bay Bridge to Avalon Boulevard. All right, so the new Navarre Community Access Road. Give you a little bit of background history and what we're looking at on that. So background. In 2007 to current, the city of Destin has been working on a community access road over there. Okay, so whenever you have the opportunity, you have the time, get on 98, go to about McGuire's, hang a left. Okay, you'll hit the community access road. You won't know you're on it. You'll be widening around. Next thing you know, you'll pop out and you'll be so far down 98 you won't realize how much ground you actually covered. But you won't realize it. There's bike lanes in some sections, there's sidewalks in some sections, but it's a great facility to be on. So in 2007, the Holley by the Sea Traffic Committee and county staff began working on an east-west connector to alleviate an alternative to US 98. Okay, so this actually came from the Holley by the Sea Traffic Maintenance Group. The county's capital improvement element for the comprehensive plan was updated to include a project in development for this project. And then in 2010, the conceptual was actually added to a regional TPO map list. And then in 2011, it was adopted by the regional TPO there as an alternative route. So what are our study limits? I've had phone calls, people contact me, say, Sean, you're gonna take my property. Where's it at? This is where it's at. Do we know where it's at? We don't. We don't know where it's at. Okay? So where are we at in that process again? We're at the feasibility stage. We are looking at doing a study. And basically, I'm going to give you a little bit of history on the study as we go into this. But as you can see, this swath basically goes from US 98 to south of East Bay Boulevard, from Edgewood Drive, all the way over to Whispering Pines. You know, it did go to Panhandle Trail, but we had a fatality on Whispering Pines at the time we were submitting an application. So in order to incorporate that, we moved the swath over so we could capitalize that. Okay. Working with FDOT, they are basically reactive. They are not proactive. So you can call me and tell me, hey, I need a sidewalk over here. We enjoy it. It's a bike path. It's a recreation route. And I'm going to say, what are your traffic counts in the past 5 years? Have you had any fatalities? Have you had any wrecks? Those are the things that's going to get me funding for some of these projects. So again, feasibility study, that's where we're at. We're not at the PD&E stage, we're not at the design stage, we're not at the right-of-way or construction phase. And even that, we don't have funding for any of this, okay? So, you know, if you're upset, you're worried about the design, you're worried about the right-of-way, we're not there right now. We haven't even come to that point yet. So again, how do we pay for it? Local funding, grant match, grants, impact fees. The county did submit a Transportation Community and Systems Preservation Program federal discretionary grant in 2012 for the same project, but it was denied. So what happened? In March of 2014, the state of Florida announced TRIP, regional TRIP funding. So what are TRIP funds used for? They're basically to improve regional transportation facilities, okay? So TRIP funds come from dock stamps. As we all know, dock stamps are the sale of properties and things of that nature. 2006, 2007, those started to rapidly decline. So those pretty much went away. Additionally to that, about 75 to 85% of all dock stamps goes towards the rail programs over located on the East Coast. So TRIP funds to Santa Rosa County or to any of the adjacent counties in the state of Florida were pretty much eliminated for a period of time. This was really the first time that this came back up. And TRIP funds require us to pay in 50% of the funding to pay for it. So DOT is going to pay for some of it, but the county or some other funding source is going to pay for that as well. All right. So the project must serve national, statewide, regional functions and function as part of the integrated regional transportation system. Excuse me. Looking at that, we knew that the city of Destin was using TRIP funds for their community access road. Okay, so since Navarre was in a similar situation, we thought that that would be an opportunity for us to take a look at that. So in 2014, the Board of County Commissioners authorized staff to research and begin working on this TRIP grant. In August, the BOCC approved it. And then in September, the regional TPO approved it as well. So this is a group, the regional TPO is a combination of Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, Walton, and Bay counties. And then as of current right now, FDOT has scheduled the feasibility study to be funded in 2017. Okay, so we're still a year out before we start taking a look at any type of a feasibility study for this. So again, the local match was $250,000. And that's the additional funding for the phases of design, right-of-way, or anything like that is not currently programmed. Feasibility study. It's basically to look at document information to reach a decision on the feasibility of the location, design concepts for the proposed community access road. What's still included? What's in a feasibility study? Traffic and regional mobility issues, social, economic, and environmental issues, feasibility and engineering, It's basically to identify the most probable corridor, okay? So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna set up a group of individuals, probably representatives from Holley by the Sea, everybody from Navarre, people from West Navarre, East Navarre. We're gonna take a look at this, along with FDOT officials and engineers and everybody, and they're gonna do this study. What the county commissioners did back in December was we actually sent a letter to DOT, and we said, hey DOT, you're beginning your PD&E study, your environmental study for US 98, beginning in 2016, in the summer. Can we use that same information, those same consultants, to do this feasibility study, okay? I know that as of right now, the big issue is, if you look at traffic counts going back, it's 41,000 to the east of State Road 87, okay? So there is a big push for the eastern part there. We could phase it out. We could do, a mile here, a mile there. We can certainly do that. So, as of right now, the feasibility study will primarily just take a look and see what is available. What are the wetlands look like? What does the traffic look like? What are those patterns? What we have in mind is not a 4-lane facility going through Holley by the Sea, connecting State Road 87, connecting Okaloosa County line, connecting the Harbor Field, okay? We are looking at trying to connect some of your existing corridors within this area, okay? Can we go through there? Can we take a standard 2-lane road that has, mailboxes on both sides or houses on both sides or something? Can we add a bike lane? Can we add a sidewalk? Okay? Somebody asked the question, is this gonna lower my property value? I can tell you, if you start getting people off of US 98 and have the ability to connect them with some of the shopping centers and some of the other facilities, it's not gonna lower your property values, it's actually gonna raise them. Okay, because that's what people are looking at. Sir?
You got money to back that up?
Yes, sir. There's studies out there.
Not studies, I said your money to back it up.
Yes, sir. You don't want my money, I don't have any. I'm a county employee. So what we're looking at is, again, a well-designed connector road with sidewalks and paved shoulders that could give residents another mobility option and improve the safety. Okay, so every trip starts and ends with walking. How did you get from the parking lot in here? How did you get from your driveway into your house? Okay, so every trip begins with walking. So that's something to think about. The primary goal of community transportation, and that's something else that the county is looking at also. I see a lot of the older generation in here. Okay, the baby boomer population right now is about 88,000 Americans a day enter that baby boomer population here. Okay, so one of the things we have to start looking at is community transportation. So individual transportation right now, as we see it, is bicycles, sidewalks. I don't know how many people have seen these guys on the 98 with they have to take the little weed eater motors and put them on their bikes, and they're riding down the shoulders. They're thumbing rides. That's currently what some of our roads look like through Holley by the Sea and through a lot of the local roads. Okay, so they're just basically just a roadway with somebody walking on the side of it. And what we've actually seen in some situations, here's old George Jones on his tractor. Okay, he lost his license, so what did he do? He jumped on the tractor and he went where he needed to go. And we've seen that. We're seeing that at some of our cold weather shelters, at some of our churches. People are showing up to get clothing, to get food and things like that. They're showing up on whatever they can use to get there. So we need to look as a county at more of a complete streets program. And that's part of what we're looking at. Okay, the county recently applied for a federal grant to have a complete streets study basically done to look and give us some ideas. But some of the things that we want to look at, again, you see here, are the bike lanes, are the sidewalks. You want to look at all forms of mobility, and that's something that the state of Florida has adopted. Federal Highways has a policy out on that, where if you're adding capacity to any type of a roadway facility, you need to look at other mobility options. So one of the things that we recently did was the South Santa Rosa Bicycle Pedestrian Plan. You can go to this website and get it. If you want a copy of the plan, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to send it to you. But it was a great project. It had basically identified some cyclist loops, gave us a lot of trail system programs that we need to look at, sidewalk systems that we needed to look at. Within Holley by the Sea, I can tell you that Edgewood Drive was a primary concern for sidewalks and for bike lanes. Talking with commissioner and as well as staff, now that we have the stormwater master plan, we can start moving towards trying to obtain some funding for Edgewood Drive to get that, for some bike lanes or some sidewalks and things. Another project we're currently working on, this is the Godwin Trail Connector. This was one of the top ranked projects, and this is heading a little bit back towards the west there. It was basically to connect Soundside Drive with Tiger Point. If you look a little bit further south, and I don't think this is gonna work, but down towards where the wording is at the bottom, there's actually a trail there, and it's maintained by some of the local organizations, the Boy Scouts, Ace Hardware. People go out there and use it, they ride it, they hike it. It's a beautiful area down there. But what we wanted to do is we're actually looking at installing a 12-foot wide multi-use sidewalk to connect those. So cyclists on bikes can use it, people that are on their ADA mobility chairs can ride them. So that would be a great opportunity as well. We have Tiger Point Boulevard sidewalks that's going in, basically from US 98 to the park there. US 98, great looking highway now that is finally over with. As part of that goes, the resurfacing project is done. We added in the 8-foot wide shoulders there as a designated bike lane with the 2-foot buffer, and then in some portions it kind of narrowed down. You don't see these yet, but we're actually, the next part of the contract is going to be the installation of the cookies. So those little raised discs that you see there, every time you kind of meander a little bit to the left or the right there, it'll click on you. That kind of gives you an idea of what it'll look like now. Again, anything that I'm involved with, I can tell you, the West Florida Regional Planning Council, if you want to know about projects that are out there, things that are happening in the area, the West Florida Regional Planning Council is on Facebook. Go to their page, like their page. They produce some great things. There's a lot of media and online opportunities that are available. Okay, we're here basically to listen to see what you have and give you some, take your advice and your ideas. And if we continue on with the Navarre Community Access Road, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of the online public, can we get surveys from people? Miss Yvonne can hit the send button, and with that she can notify everybody within the Homeowners Association for you to complete that survey. I mean, that's a great opportunity by doing that. So let's dig a little bit deeper, okay? So there's been some things that have been floating around, the Eglin bypass, for instance. I want to touch on that. I only got a few more slides, so we'll get out of here on that. But basically, the Northwest Florida Transportation Corridor Authority was created in 2005. This is actually a state authority that was created by legislation. They are a bonding avenue, okay? So there are 8 non-elected voting members from Escambia County all the way over to Apalachicola. And their mission basically is to enhance traveler safety, develop hurricane evacuation routes, promote economic development along the corridor. So US 98, that was their primary goal, was to focus on US 98. They are also authorized to construct any feeder roads, reliever roads, connector roads, or bypass facilities, okay? So again, their master plan looks at the 6-laning of US 98, the Eglin bypass, and the Destin Crosstown Connector. Their #1 project in 2013 was the Crosstown Connector in Destin. I would love to see a Navarre Community Access Road on that master plan list. So that they can take some bonding funds and help us fund some of that project, whether it's here, whether it's over in West Navarre, or heading over towards East Navarre. However we need to get people off of US 98 to alleviate some of that traffic, or take people within the existing neighborhoods and prevent them from getting onto 98. If you can get to the school, if you can get to the post office, if you can get to the to the gym to work out, or wherever you need to go. So their feasibility study was the #1 priority, and that was the Eglin bypass in 2010. So what happened with the Eglin bypass? Everybody asks about it. It's the mysterious project that's hanging around out there. It was basically a conceptual roadway from State Road 87 to State Road 85. The Air Force approved it, which was the ultimate thing because it was going through most of Eglin's property. There was no additional or widening of US 98 or State Road 85. And the highest use was west of Herbert Field. So that segment between Herbert Field and State Road 87. So this was actually done by the Florida Tollway Express Authority. So this was the study that was completed by them. So it was a 4-lane facility. So what happened? $986 million for a 4-lane facility, $585 million for a 2-lane facility. And unfortunately, the largest section of environmental issues was west of Herbert Field. Okay. So overall cost, even as a toll facility, wasn't feasible. And that may be what happens with this conceptual study that we're going to do for the Navarre Community Access Road. It may turn out that there are so many wetlands on some of these roadways that we can't do a community access road. You know, until this study is done, we'll know. You know, the primary purpose of the study was to basically find out and take a look. Again, here's my contact information. I'm a community planner with Santa Rosa County. If there's anything I can do, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email. I know I've been working with Ms. Hogg in the back there, Ms. Hogue, and working with her on some local issues in Holley by the Sea just recently. You can go to the Santa Rosa /transportation page that's set up. It's going to give you some of the links to some of the stuff that I just talked about. It's also going to identify some of the other projects. And there's also Santa Rosa /transit. You know, again, if you have neighbors, if you have veterans that need to get to the VA clinic over in Escambia County, we can certainly help with that. These are some of the things that we have. I just recently also working with transit. You know, I'm a big promoter of it. And one of the things I recently found out is that the American Cancer Society actually has a volunteer program. So if you know somebody that is dealing with cancer and mom, brother, uncle, whatever, and you can't take them to get a treatment, you can contact the American Cancer Society and they will actually help you out and have a volunteer take that person over there. So that's a free service, so that's a great service there. But I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody may have or anything that I can do. And like I said, I'll leave some cards with Ms. Harper, and feel free to contact me. Yes, sir.
You want to take questions now or first, just send them to you there?
Either way, however you want. I mean, I don't know what the board, however the board, I'm at their mercy. So. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes. Tim Carson from Morey Drive.
Yes, sir.
I'm scared of 98 like a lot of people are.
Right.
The biggest problems in 98 are, and there's a lot fewer of them here in Navarre, but there still are out there. We have crossovers that don't have a turning lane for them. There's one there, right down there by the Thai restaurant, right over here. I can't remember the name of the street. I think it's Bluefin or just past Bluefin. Are we looking at getting rid of all of those?
Okay. There is actually, it was completed, I want to say in 2011, was a congestion management study, okay? The congestion management study looked at everything from basically, I want to say, City of Gulf Breeze to the Okaloosa County line. One of the things that you're looking at that is real familiar down South Florida and some of the areas, the other areas, is either the removal of a median or converting that to a directional. Okay, if you reduce those crash points, you reduce crashes, which in turn reduces the amount of congestion that or the time that you're sitting on US 98. So that's why you're starting to see a lot of those directional medians where you can only go left or you can only go right when you're turning into different places. I don't see any. Now you're talking about a crossover. You're referencing like a median cut.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any more median cuts coming.
How about fixing the ones that we still have?
Those. We're in the process of working on those, and you will continuously see some of those improvements on 98. I do know that DOT is scared of closing a median, and I can tell you they have a long process, and the reason is economically, because if somebody opened a business specifically because they have a median cut right there and people can turn into their business, what happens a lot of times what we see is people don't want to go a quarter of a mile and turn around. And that's all you have to do. You know, a lot of times you can get there faster by going that little quarter mile, going down to the next median, and circling around, but yeah, I would like to see some more of those. Okay.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The 6 laning of this segment.
Yes, sir.
What stage of your process is that in?
We are in the PD&E, so we're at the phase 1.
Okay.
That is getting ready to kick off this summer. So I would highly invite anytime you see any information, and I will certainly forward that to Ms. Harper so she can post it on your HOA website or whatever. If you live within proximity to 98, you'll probably receive a letter from DOT, but they're getting ready to kick all that off right now. And now's the time to get involved, and anything that you want to see happen. That's what we did with the resurfacing. Originally they were just going to put it back the way it was, and Commissioner Lane Lyncher came in and said, "Look, we have issues with 98 and cyclists and some of these pedestrian fatalities." That's how we got the lighting project, which is one of the largest lighting projects in the state. For that, and also we got the 8-foot paved shoulder. They worked with DOT and funded that with the impact fee money that we had, so we were able to get that. Yes, sir.
This is just a quick statement.
Yes, sir.
I hope somebody, and I hope the board will listen to this, I hope that we would consider getting a westbound sidewalk over here between the light and Holley by the Sea, because as you're looking right, you're looking left to turn right, all of a sudden you've got a bicycle in your way.
Right.
Or that's dangerous, especially because they're not following. We might be putting in bicycle lanes, but people aren't following the law on that.
Right.
But my real question, or my real issue is, has anybody considered de-lighting 98? What I mean is, get rid of traffic lights and do turnaround lanes and stuff like that. So instead of having a direct crossover,
Right.
you have to, I loved coming out of Coral Drive. You turn right, you merge over, and then you turn back the other way. It made sense to me. We put a light in there, now everybody's jammed up and stuck. Is there anybody thinking about de-lighting 98? Biggest problem we have with traffic coming from east to here is all the traffic lights between Hurlburt and the post office.
Right.
I still remember coming home, and down there on Whispering Pines, a whole bunch of traffic went east. We were sitting in a traffic jam for half an hour trying to get past that light. 3 cars go ahead and get through because the eastbound lane allowed a whole bunch of cars to go north.
Right.
I don't know if you have any control over that, but if we could get it so that every other light is when northbound traffic can go north, that would allow a lot more traffic to head east. But all those traffic lights,
Right.
until this post office down here, screw up the traffic.
Okay.
It's either traffic, of course it thins out by that point in time, but.
To address that one, I don't see any traffic lights going away.
Please.
Yeah.
Think about it. You gotta get,
I
you
agree.
gotta think about it.
Unfortunately, it's hard to take something away once you have it, and a lot of times the lights are added because of crashes and things like that. But regarding traffic signals, okay, right now you may notice some changes on the traffic signals over the next couple weeks. Okay, DOT right now is working on a retiming effort that will basically retime all the lights to the signals. Okay. Now that all the resurfacing is done, when the contractors were in there, a lot of times they would tear up the loops. So when you come up to a cross street and you would all of a sudden sit there and you'd wait, and all of a sudden, nothing would happen. That's because the contractors tore those loops up when they were resurfacing US 98. So they're in the process of, everything should be taken care of now, and they are in the process of re-signalizing and retiming all these lights. So if you go from one light, it should move fairly slow. The other thing that is currently being worked on right now with the Escambia County and Santa Rosa group, we have what's called ITS. ITS is Intelligent Transportation Systems, okay? Right now, they've already incorporated some of these over in Escambia County and the city of Pensacola. We're looking at bringing it to Santa Rosa County as well, and it's about a $25 million project across both counties that will incorporate a linked system. So all the fiber optics and everything will be linked for all the systems. They'll have cameras on them. They have them over in Okaloosa County right now as well. And that way, if somebody sees that there's a wreck, they can adjust that timing to let more cars go through, and everything. So that's something that's being worked on. A lot of your larger cities have it. FHP works well with it. Fire department works well with it because you can adjust these signals. So if a guardrail is broken, they can immediately FHP can let somebody know on the scene, and they can transfer that information so that guardrail can be replaced sooner. Those are things that the ITS will work with. If you've been on the interstate anywhere between here and Tallahassee, you've seen the signs, the big signs that let you know. That's something else they're looking at. So if there's a wreck on 98, they can say, hey, wreck here, take East Bay Boulevard. You know, to give you that kind of alternative to let you know ahead of time that something's going on. So that's in the process right now. I'm not sure when the memorandum of agreement will be signed, but speaking with the secretary from DOT, that's something they're really pushing right now, and they're looking pretty hard to, you know, to implement for the entire, both Escambia and Santa Rosa County. Yes, sir.
I have one comment and one question.
Yes, sir.
One's in reference to something Tim said.
Yes, sir.
About out here on 98. I, as well as quite a few of the other residents, do ride a bicycle over here to the facility. And quite frankly, I want to cross at the light.
Right.
I don't want to go down 98 and almost get killed trying to get across there. So what you end up doing either is walking your bike, or as he said, going the wrong way on the shoulder of that. So it would be nice to have a little cheap fix right there.
I don't wanna have to run over Rod Danner to get a fatality so that we can get that.
Nor do I want to.
Yeah. And with that, like I said, if DOT, now granted, you're probably a cyclist, so you're probably one of the cyclists who will get out on 98 and ride your cycle, I don't know. But
No, I try to
okay,
avoid
right,
even in the car.
right. But yeah, if DOT does come in and once they widen 98, at that point you're going to get a designated bike lane and you're going to get a sidewalk that you could actually utilize. Okay?
Well, that would be the bike lane. I mean, there's a painted
Right.
bike lane there now, but it's a shared lane,
Correct.
which is not the safest thing.
Yes, sir.
My question is about East Bay Boulevard. Will there be a new pedestrian slant bicycle access across Tom King Bayou there, as well as completion of the sidewalk?
Yeah, the completion is already programmed, so that's already scheduled to be, and what it is as the work crew for the county gets opportunities and things, they come down and do that.
Right.
So that's currently underway. Tom King Bayou, that was the only last piece. It was really silly taking a look at, you had this beautiful, multi-lane path. You have to get off of it to go around Tom King Bayou and then get back on it. Just got cost estimates back. It's about $1 million for Tom King Bayou. The Board of County Commissioners, and that was done through a consultant that specializes in that type of thing. It wasn't done by county staff or nothing like that. We went with an outside agency to give us those estimates. It will actually be coming up for discussion on some of these projects with the county commissioners probably within the next few Board of County Commissioner meetings. And at the same time, every year, once a year, we're able to submit projects to the Florida Department of Transportation. They're called Transportation Alternative Projects. It's mostly to focus on transportation, sidewalks, bike lanes, paved shoulders, and things like that. It takes about 5 to 10 years to get a project through the process, and that's simply because we are in competition with Escambia County. We've submitted, projects over the years. We've gotten, the Spencer Field sidewalks, the old brick road out there in East Milton project. I can tell you one of the top projects was the pedestrian overpass in Navarre there. That was a project for a while. So there's a lot of things in the work. We're going to be submitting that Tom King Bayou project as well.
By $1 million, do you mean a whole new bridge or just?
No, that was for the pedestrian bridge located adjacent to it.
Surely those wooden bridges like you have on those other crossovers.
No, I think you're looking at, because that bridge there on East Bay Boulevard is not scheduled for reconstruction anytime soon. It's fairly new, so there's no problems there. So if you created a pedestrian overpass, basically a bridge for that, you're looking at $1 million with permitting and everything else.
No way. To put a little wooden
Scratch.
What about like just a walkover?
Yeah.
Again, everything, unfortunately now,
We could
everything,
get Boy Scouts to do
yeah,
that.
and everything has to be ADA standards, and that's,
Well, we
that's
can use
part of your
ADA
federal government.
standards.
Yeah, everything has to be to federal standards and everything else, so yeah,
Well,
that's.
things can be built to federal standards without
Yeah.
charging $1 million. Who's making that money?
Again, I'm just relaying the message here. So so
There's
that's what the
no way.
consultant
I
says.
want to
So,
ride across that bridge. I'll turn around and go back. And then all the way up.
yeah, so.
We'll build it for $500,000, ADA compliant and everything. I'll pay for it.
Contact Mr. Furman or Roger Blaylock. I'm with you. I mean, I understand the frustration. I can see it. So.
I mean, all you gotta do is walk over it or
Well-
roll over it.
Well, again, it needs to be a 12
Just
foot
a-
wide.
They make 6x2s 12 foot wide. Hook up a couple cables and we're good to go.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. Andrew Jones from, I live on Leisure Street.
Okay.
I know you guys have done the water study. That's my biggest concern with access road anywhere in
Right.
Santa Rosa County. We all know that once you add hard top surfaces, that water has nowhere to go. We already have enough water issues,
Right.
especially where I live on Leisure. I average about 2 feet of running water when we have the floods.
You're between Pepper and Maury Drive, right?
No, I'm on this end of Leisure, right off of Sherwood. We're Tontine Bayou, the creek that feeds Tontine.
Right. Yeah, I know, Basketball Donovan did that study, did the stormwater problem area, and I don't know if you've seen the presentation that they had, but their software basically shows what needs to be done first to correct any type of further corrections further downstream.
And I read that report, and from what it said, all the money for time invested in it isn't really gonna do worth a grand crap.
Well, like I said, their software modeling program demonstrates what needs to be fixed and what needs to be corrected and how, and what order it needs to be done. So those are some of the things that will be taken into consideration when they do that feasibility study. So yeah, definitely the stormwater, because we know, again, if it's not feasible to add any type of connection roads or even widen the roads or anything, it's not gonna happen. So.
Sean, Jerry Gallo. Has the county looked, or the state, this is the state road east over
Yes,
there,
sir.
of the new apartment complex that's going on down here to the east of us, and then we got that other apartment complex that's doubled in size.
Right.
Do we need a couple fatalities, do a study, or?
No,
how do we-
again-
What are we gonna do with it? Do we put lights there, or how are we gonna do
No,
that?
they
lights?
didn't trigger any type of a light, the requirement for a light at those, at those
The
facilities.
population density there didn't?
No, sir, no,
So-
they didn't trigger anything, but again, with those new, apartments coming online, that, if you look at the growth on 98, that's what the push is for them to do the study on 98 for the widening.
Can we at least do the turns like you're talking about over there where it restricts you as you're leaving, where they
Yeah,
have
to
to go
get out.
right and then come back to the left? Because there's an older one there now, but I can see someone come out of there in the morning with all the rush hour, and you're cutting across 2 lanes, and you're gonna
Right.
turn around there. I mean, those restricted, at least those restricted turnoffs.
And that's something, yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that as those apartments start to develop and people start moving in and things like that. We'll
What is the
definitely-
county conjunct to the state, or how do you get that moving? What's the process roughly along? So you gotta hold.
Generally, we can go to the state and request it. We, the TPO, which is the Florida Alabama Transportation Planning Organization, if you're not a member of it or anything like that, if you wanna come see some of these processes and procedures, definitely I encourage you to come. I can tell you it's a little discouraging when you're looking at 2040 plan, but that's how things, how things happen sometimes, and that's how we program it. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll take a look at those, especially the directional medians. We're starting to see, when you reduce those crash points and,
Well, and at the new apartments that we've got right up here, there's not even an acceleration lane to get out.
right.
Why was that approved?
Yeah,
Because that's going to be a big crash point right there.
and again, as far as the acceleration goes, those lanes, I don't know if DOT's in favor of them or not. I haven't worked with them any on that process. So
But from a design standpoint, that's
Yeah.
not.
it's more money,
For
DOT.
2016,
Right.
we don't design that way, do we? I mean, that just seems like something from the 70s.
You would think that maybe DOT would require it, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look into it for you. I mean, that's a
Why
good
doesn't the
point.
county require it?
County is a state facility. The county doesn't deal with US 98.
But it's county development, it's
Right.
in our county.
Yeah, no, we do have,
When they had to ask the county to build the property, didn't they? Or did they ask the state to build on the property?
no, they came through the county as
So
far as
why isn't that a
development.
county standard?
Because again, the state regulates what goes on in US 98 as far as the driveway access and things like that. So,
But wouldn't the county though raise that question to the state?
good.
I just don't
I'm sure,
understand
yeah.
how we've got a building hasn't even opened yet and there's no acceleration lane.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know,
gonna
I'll have
be
to
a
look into it.
disaster.
Yeah, I'll find out about that as far as that goes and research it for you. I don't know.
And then also, how was Gulf Breeze able to close the cut through there that was cutting through to Starbucks?
Yeah, it was the same situation where they had so many crashes. I think the city council and the mayor and DOT worked with that as well. And they took a look at the crashes, and then, they did a public study basically that showed the number of crashes. I think they blocked it off for a period of time, and they went back after that period and said, look, we're showing you, they blocked it off, there's no crashes, you can still have access to your business. There's no problems or no issues. So at that point, they decided to close it, so.
The city
decide?
No, DOT decided,
But
DOT
the city
just.
put the pressure on them.
Right, yes, sir, yep.
So that's why we're not able to get anything closed here,
Well.
because we don't have enough political clout.
No, I can tell you, what's gonna happen is, I go back and I look at that access management study that was done. Okay, and I take a look at it and I can see, yes, this is what's programmed, this is where we're at, you know. Commissioner Williamson, myself, anybody can go to DOT and say, hey, we need to close this median. Okay, and then at that point, we need to start pushing DOT to close the median. And DOT will, you know, they'll take a look at the crash numbers, and, you know, if there's a high number of crashes there, they'll certainly take a look at it. You're looking at about $30,000 to close a median or to convert it to a directional median is what the estimates are. But yeah, definitely, I mean, if there's a median or something somewhere that you think that needs to be closed or something, let me know. I can tell you that Commissioner Williamson is, you know, working with him on some of these medians. He has been pushing very hard to close some of them or convert them, because he sees that it reduces traffic, you know, to those crashes. And when you're not sitting in line because of a crash because somebody, you know, wrecked in the median, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it only makes sense, I think. But unfortunately, if you close off an intersection and a way for somebody to get to their house or, you know, get to their subdivision or get to their business, sometimes that public outcry is more.
So the pedestrian overpass in Navarre, is that dead?
As of right now, FDOT is finishing up the design for that project, and then they're gonna come back to the county and ask the county what to do with it. We did send a letter stating that no, we weren't going to provide the extra additional funding for that project. When I first submitted that application, Commissioner Melvin asked me to submit that application, and I said, Commissioner, we have no sidewalks there, we have no bike lanes there. We need to take a look at other avenues, not just a pedestrian overpass. I had been to several workshops. DOT's not in heavy favor of pedestrian overpasses, because simply they get built and they don't get used. And so one of the things that we did was we put into that application that we wanted a pedestrian study to be looked at, see what, you know, what type of numbers are down there, how many people are walking, how many people are crossing the road and things. The issue is with the DeVar concerts in the park. That's when you have your problems on 98 and people crossing that there. So we submitted the application and DOT came back and said, hey, we're at 80%. What do y'all want to do? And the consultant said, well, you didn't have enough property on the north side of the road. And we said, okay, well, Ms. Ira May was going to sell us a portion of it, but she withdrew that and said she wanted to sell the entire piece of property and not only a portion of it. So then they said, well, we're going to take away parking from the visitor center and the park. You need to purchase property on the north side in order to accommodate that parking. And we said, okay, so now instead of it being at 1 million, we're now at 2 million. The other issue is some of the overhead utilities because of the height of that project. So yeah, I would rather see some more on the ground features there, certainly to get people across. There are a lot of things now that are available where you can press a button and the lights will start blinking and then they'll go to a red button. You can cross, you can go to a center median, you can go to some sort of a refuge area, and then the button on the other side will start flashing and then you can move on from there. There's a lot of different things out there that you can do besides a pedestrian overpass. So.
Well, could we get those kinds of features here at Holley by the Sea, because we have a lot of pedestrians coming across Highway 98 to get here?
Certainly,
So,
yeah. I mean, that's certainly.
So what do we do to
certainly
get that
take a look.
done?
We can look at.
Or even if the bar doesn't want the pedestrian overpass and the state is going to give $2.6 million for it, can we maybe move it down here to Holley by the Sea where people will use it?
Unfortunately, the state has already redistributed those funds elsewhere. We have 16 counties that fight for that money in the district, in District 3, and that was one of the things we were sitting at a meeting, and they said it was programmed in year 5. It wasn't allocated, it was programmed. You know, it was sitting out there, it was referenced. But yeah, they've already distributed that money, and I can tell you the commissioner has fought hard to try to get some projects somewhere else, whether in this area or elsewhere, and DOT has said no.
Well, what can we do then as a homeowner association to improve our walkability here to get over to this facility?
May I ask you a question to
Yeah.
that? Having lived in a country who's very high in population and
Sure, definitely, yeah.
space and land, in Japan what they do is they'll take like Navarre, like this intersection up here, and they'll cross, do the lines, and then when someone hits the button, it stops all lights. so that they can cross diagonally, horizontally, vertically? Is it possible to do that and have it activated, say Rod comes up to right
Yeah,
side, he
push
hits
button
it,
type
and
situation.
then the entire intersection, not just the east and west or.
Right,
south
yeah, I
and
mean, that's
south.
something we can certainly look at, I mean, you know, talk to your commissioners, request something of that nature, and, I mean, I can tell you, when I came into this position, one of the things that we looked at heavily was trying to get the access between the real estate office, trying to, you know, so you didn't have to come down 98 to get here to this building, and, you know, I'll continue to push for that as much as I can to get some sort of a cross access there, but I know there's a lot of, you know, residents and everything that cross that intersection. But yeah, that's something definitely, like for instance, when the PD&E study comes on, when we start looking at the widening of 98, at that point too, we need to go to that DOT. I will certainly let them know, you know, at the same time, you know, when I'm working with them, I think it would be a great, you know, alternative right there. Instead of just a standard push button, wait for the signal, okay, you got 30 seconds to run across the road, you know, 4 lanes of traffic doesn't help. So yeah, definitely.
Also, coming out of Edgewood to make a right-hand turn, we had asked for a right turn lane there. Where are we at on that?
They did the survey.
Yeah, it was surveyed, what, a year ago?
No.
Yeah, you know, I'm
4
not
months
sure.
ago.
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not sure on the status of that. I know that the county was working with the state on trying to get the turn lane in. What it is every 5 years we rotate funding with Escambia County. Escambia County gets it for 5 years, we get it for 5 years. It goes back and forth. So what we do is, and it's about $1.5 million a year to complete some of these projects. So you're going to start seeing some things. I know at the school, coming out of the school onto 98, there's going to be a turn lane added there. So that was one of the projects that was selected. There was a list of about 5 to 10 things that will happen on 98 specifically for this corridor that we're taking a look at. One of the other things is I want to say it's in 2020. We have it scheduled already to do an access management study on East Bay Boulevard. So at that point, we'll take a look at the bicycles, at the pedestrians, any median cuts, any access driveway. You know, if we need right turn lanes into this subdivision, left turn lane, those are things that we'll take a look at also as part of that.
And as we're doing our regional planning, our community, Navarre and Holley by the Sea, is made up of a great many military people.
Yes,
and civilians that work at both Hurlburt and Edward.
Right.
And so I know that when we plan, we're with Escambia County and Santa Rosa County, but we don't stop at the Okaloosa County line here.
Understand.
We've got to plan all the way through. So I guess you were calling it the Eglin bypass, but I've always known it as the Navarre bypass.
Right.
Okay. It's my understanding that that's still out there. I know it's expensive,
Right.
but we've got to do it
Right.
because this place is getting choked out. We can't throw any more people in here
Well-
with only one east-west connector. People have to get to work,
Part
and
of-
people have to get home from work.
Part of your regional connectivity that you're referencing, okay, I had lunch Monday with a lieutenant colonel from Herbertfield, Santa Rosa, a couple of Santa Rosa County employees as well as Okaloosa County staff. We met with the lieutenant, and the colonel said, you know, what can I do? What do you need from me? What do you need from Herbertfield? Once a quarter, the commander goes and meets with the governor, okay? So what happened down there was, as you see now, you had the flyover, okay? Colonel Slythe would walk into the governor, and the governor says, Colonel, what can I do to help you? What can I do for Herbertfield? And the colonel says, I need an overpass, okay? Other colonels will come in and they say, well, I need this, I need that, I need this. Next quarter, colonel comes in, Colonel Slythe says, what do you need? I need an overpass. And he did that, okay? I can tell you that was probably about a 10 to 12 year project in the making, and within about 2 years' time, it was done. I mean, it was just like that, because that's what the colonel focused on. So that's what we're trying to do now. This was the first time that I've been able to have that opportunity, and I'm glad I did to work with them. And those are some of the things, because, you know, the lieutenant colonel knew it. He said, you know, when I go back to my boss, and my boss says, what do I need? I want to be able to tell him what I need for, you know, for Okaloosa County or Santa Rosa County. And so we're certainly trying to make those connections.
Well, I think it would be helpful when we're out talking with the community, that we not say things like, oh, that's off the table, have the big frowny face, impossible, not feasible, because it's gotta be done.
Well,
So-
I agree that it needs
So
to be
there's,
done.
there's information out there that the Air Force won't allow it, but you just said the Air Force will.
That's right, that's
So,
right.
people need to know that needs to get out there.
Well-
And so the Air Force is what? Federal. So we can get some federal money in here to help out with this.
There are DoD funds available, until, and what the colonel said on Monday was Herbert Field is all for it, okay? But Herbert Field is a leasee of the lands from Eglin Air Force Base, okay? So until the Eglin, and they changed their staff, their commanders and everything. So until Eglin pulls the trigger to make it happen, it won't happen. Now, what I showed was based upon the express toll authority, okay? So that's what their study showed. Now, if Eglin came out today and said, we're gonna put a bypass, I'm all for it. But again, that's closed information that I'm not subject to. So when I show a slide like that, yeah, according to that study right there, it's off the table. I mean, it's not gonna happen. But I certainly encourage everybody to continue to push for it.
But yet I still see it on the TPO planning documents.
Yes, that's why we're trying to leave it out there. I mean, we're trying to leave it.
Okay, so
you know.
the word needs to be out there that it is possible. Not,
Yeah, anything's
not
possible with the right
frowny
amount of
face,
money.
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I mean, so I mean,
But,
it's
but
up
we're
to
also
right
throwing
now.
a lot of money into many other things around here.
Right.
Not around here, not in Navarre, but up in the northern, Highway 9 and that kind of thing. But, so we need to start throwing some more money down here in Navarre.
I'm with you. I work for the county. I work for all of Santa Rosa County. So
I understand.
That's.
But the message needs to not be that it's impossible.
Yeah.
The message needs to be, it is possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Just takes time.
Is there any other questions, or is there anything else I can?
Just a clarification on the re-signalization that's going, that's just a natural thing that happens after you repave this amount. It didn't take someone begging for that to happen,
No, we have an ITS subcommittee, and those funds, they rotate between Escambia County and Santa Rosa County. We look at projects and go down. The last project, this is the first time since, I want to say, 2004, 2005, that they have done this wide of this length of a segment. What they've done in the past is looked at certain intersections and try to get 2 or 3 lights. But no, it's just a rolling process. It held because the rezoning or the resurfacing is done now, and that was a primary time because we knew that so many of the loops had been torn up and so much had happened since then, and so much growth has occurred. So they'll continue to monitor it for about 20 months or so. I think is what is in the contract with the state. So.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Ward, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
the members as well. And take a 5-minute break. We'll resume at 7:06. All right, item number 9, the ACC policy for for construction water runoff. The motion was to remove item 5 as worded to be replaced with language that requires builder to provide completed checklist. When a certificate of occupancy is issued prior to Holley by the Sea signing off, it will be brought back to the board during the architectural board meeting. All in favor? Aye. The new business was the revised usage policy. The motion was to approve the revised usage policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
4 to 1. There is no action on item 10B. Item 10C, I pull my motion, and there is no further action to be taken on this item.
The motion is withdrawn.
The motion, I withdraw the motion. The next item is a review of hardship requests for 2016 assessments. These were dealt with. There is one more. Can we?
It's not on the agenda, but it's under that same heading.
There was one that was brought to the attention after this board meeting, so since we were dealing with this, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention and maybe deal with it tonight. We had an email requesting that the 2016 interest and late fees be waived for 2016 assessment. The reason was the individual's father passed away, and he's hired an attorney to take care of his estate. He didn't realize that association fees were due. So his account, the balance on the account is 0, with the exception of obviously the 2016 assessment and interest and late fees. So,
Will this motion be the same as the previous motions to waive late fees and interest?
yes. So the motion is to waive the late fee and the interest. I just need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Which item is this, please?
This is under item 10D. I'm not sure if he's selling or not. He just stated that his father passed away. He has the estate. He's handling it. He didn't realize that assessments were due. So he's asking for a waiver of the late fees and interest for 2016.
When was it paid? Or he hasn't paid it
It's
yet?
not been paid yet, not to my knowledge. To my knowledge, based on what I was going to find out, is none of it's been paid out for 2016. But that's the only one that's due, is 2016.
Have they given a date on when they think they're gonna pay it, or?
He just asked that the late fees be waived and interest. There's no indication as to when it would be paid.
Tim Carson, 2264 Moray Drive. I would just like to say that I just went through a death of a relative, and it's a stressful time. There's a lot of things going on. If that is the case, just make it fall through the cracks. I don't want interest. I don't want my association taking interest because somebody's had a death in the family.
Well, we did, on Tuesday, there were several hardships that included similar circumstances, and the board voted against them with the exception of two, because the letter went out and, the information was put out there with regards to the assessments in October. The letter went out on the 1st. So the only information that we have with this individual is that her father passed away last year, and I'm not taking away from that hardship at all, but that's all the information. I mean, there was no, like, did he die at the beginning of the year, mid-year, at the end of the year? So we can table this until we find that out, or we can vote on it.
I'm good. The only question I have, because we have Katzman now,
It would have to be paid before then.
It would have to be repaid before it's turned over.
yeah, that's the only thing I was gonna bring up, is to make sure that they knew or understood.
I would waive it based on what Tim said, but you've gotta know that it's gotta get done.
Well, I just think if we're going to be consistent with what we did on Tuesday, because there were a few that dealt with deaths as well.
Yeah, if there's a death, there's a probate, an attorney's involved, and all that should be handled, pretty much as a matter of routine.
Right.
So, if it hadn't been paid, it's just, it fell through somebody's crack.
Alright, so all in favor of waiving the late fee and interest for this individual?
Nay.
Nay.
I'm gonna vote nay, because we had similar issues on Tuesday, and we voted against those, so it's important, as was stated by the board members on Tuesday, to be consistent.
And we're talking $36 or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
So, April, if you can let them know that the outcome and that it needs to be paid by February 29th, in order to avoid going to elections. All right, the next item were 2 lots owned by Holley by the Sea. The motion was to sell the lots. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next motion was the meeting date for the covenant threshold and incentive. The motion was to approve the proxy for special owners meeting with the changes from legal counsel. No, I know. Did everyone have a chance to look over his, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the next one was the motion to approve a $10 credit for the assessment or service of members' choice. So we'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I do wanna have a little bit of discussion on that. think it's a good idea. However, I'm a little leery of expending 25 to even possibly $47,000 on this. What about, since we are sending these out with a postage paid envelope, correct? Why not take $4,000 to $5,000, buy 4 or 5 $1,000 Visa gift cards, and all you have to do is check a box, mail it in, and you have about a 1 in 940 chance of winning $1,000. It only costs $5 grand instead of 30 to 47. It may take another legal opinion, but and actually Sarah kind of came up with that idea, and I embellished it, so I can't take no credit for it. I'd rather spend 5,000 than possibly 47.
Yeah, I don't know how that falls into games of chance. And
Well, I
various
don't
other
know.
issues. A legal opinion would be a good thing on that.
But we could get it.
And the committee did kick around that idea. I think Pete's point that,
Well, Pete's example of like going to Home Depot and they'll give you a gift certificate if you complete the survey, you're competing with millions of people. So you know the odds are about the same as the lottery. But if you're only competing with the number of people that return that, which most likely won't be 47, we'll be lucky if it's 20. But, you know, we could also make it contingent upon getting X amount returned. Yeah. In other words, you'll have a chance at this if we get enough participation. If we don't, you check the box for nothing. But you still check the box for nothing.
So would this be contingent, the drawing, if you will, be contingent upon getting enough signatures returned?
Right.
I'm not sure. Does everybody understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, if you're here Tuesday, you'd understand.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, for those who weren't here Tuesday, essentially what it is because there's the board approved an amendment going out to the members to vote on to lower the threshold in order to change the covenants. But this amendment would still have to meet the current threshold, which is essentially a supermajority. So the Covenants Committee was trying to come up with a way for people just to complete it, not to tell them how to vote, but just say, you know, you'll get a $10 credit on your assessment if you just complete it and turn it in. And so, but that would kind of bite into the budget, if you will. So that's what he's talking about, is instead of that, some other incentive, just to get people to vote, not to tell them how to vote, but to vote and return it. So that's what this is about.
I'd be more apt to check the box and send it back if I'd had $1,000 chance, rather than you offering me $10 a year from now. And then if we were to actually spend $25,000, then what if we had to turn around and raise the assessment? It would be a lot easier for me to look the members in the face and say, we took a chance on this, rather than all of a sudden.
If you're going to do that, then just offer 4 people the opportunity to waive their 2017 assessment, and then it's actually a little bit lower than the 4,000.
Okay. I mean, that's not as attractive to me as $1,000.
I know, but for some people that, I think
And they
that
can't
would-
be board members.
And they can't.
I'm sorry.
No,
But
we
you're a
can
member
double.
just like everyone else.
Well, Publix has that survey.
That's not a
But
bad
I mean, that might actually, I don't know, and that.
Assessment sitting at Christmas time, that's a great idea.
Any thoughts? I see nodding heads, but what does that mean?
I'm a gift card.
You're a gift person?
Is there a motion and a second on this, so there can be discussion?
Yeah, there's already, that's done.
In regards to point, this is for Memorial Drive. I would, that's what I just mentioned to Sarah, instead of a gift card, potentially, so long as it may be more legal, but like, obviously, this is something that has it's been passed legal yet? Yeah.
Not the waiving
Not the
of the
waiving.
assessment, but the attorney did say that we can offer a credit,
Okay.
in his opinion, that was
But that would definitely motivate me to be involved, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are looking every Christmas. I hate that our assessments come due on January along with all everything else that happens at that point in time, so. For what's it worth, a few, people getting their assessments, I'd love to roll the dice and get that.
But we would have to make sure that, you know, cause it would be a waiving of the full, you know, we'd have to clear that just like the $1,000.
It's a credit.
Yeah, I would make contingent upon
You should
getting
waive assessment.
enough.
Yes.
I don't think you should waive assessments. Your assessment's your assessment, but if you're getting a gift card, that's different.
Do we want to table this?
If it's a Visa or MasterCard, you could use it.
And then you can use it to make your assessment. Right.
I'd like to, well, you have, whose motion?
Yeah, John's motion. You want to withdraw your motion and then.
Yeah, let me do that. So I'll withdraw the motion and then make a motion to table this, you know, pending review from attorney on how much we can offer and, you know, if it conflicts with laws, you know, whether it's gambling or any other, and bring it back to the board on February 25th.
Yeah, I like that.
February 25th?
Second?
Instead of giving the money
That would be
Is
our
that the
ACC
Saturday?
meeting. That's this week.
February 25th. February 25th is an architectural
Oh.
board of directors meeting, so we'll table this till then. That way it gets done before the end of the month, before these things go out.
What does that do to
I
our
won't
time?
be here. Can we do it for the first meeting?
No, we need to, because of the timeline, we need to, that's probably like the latest that we decide this. So it gives us 2 weeks to.
And if we need to have a special meeting for just that one agenda item, I mean, we can get together in 5 minutes and
Okay.
have a meeting if you want.
Yeah.
Just have a special meeting next week. And that way you're less jammed.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, cause we're gonna have to change
Yeah.
the letter or whatever.
No, this isn't, the letter doesn't have to be changed. The letter does
Well,
not
it's the
reflect.
letter.
Well, that would all go out
What
together.
they're gonna get out.
Yes, but the letter, well, I understand what you're saying.
So maybe we should have a special meeting next Tuesday if you want to get together and
Yeah, if we get Jay with that.
sometimes it's convenient for everybody.
So we don't push the timeline.
So you want to restate that motion?
So I make a motion to hold a special meeting next week in order to discuss some type of credit for members who vote.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I just need to vote, he's taking it exactly, he's saying to vote for the amendment, get him to vote on the amendment.
Well, we're going to work out the wording.
Well, he's talking about my motion, I meant, that is what I meant, but I understand how people could misconstrue that for it as opposed to just vote. Okay. All right, item number G was taken care of on Tuesday, and item number H, motion to approve this request, all in favor?
What do we know about this? I mean, nobody
This is
had a meeting or anything.
This is and my son went to Woodlawn Beach Middle School, and they have this every year, and what they do, and I can't remember the name of the competition, but they build some type of robotic, and then it's a competition that they have at the county, district, state, national, and so that's what this is. So it's a science class that builds some type of, you know, remote vehicle, if you will. And so this year, they apparently have built a water vehicle, and they just needed to use the pool to test it.
I guess my concern is, I mean, I'm all for science and robotics and all that, but my concern is, and I'm not sure we can get any assurances that these vehicles won't leak fluids or lubricants or battery acid or whatever into the pool and or damage the pool. We have no assurance of that whatsoever.
I don't think that I don't know what they've built, so I'm.
How soon do we have to have an answer?
They're wanting to.
So we can mark it April.
They can sign a waiver.
On Tuesdays, they're wanting to do this on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, I think it was March and April.
So we can approve it contingent upon, you know, accepting liability that if they leak material that damages the pool, then obviously they would have to be responsible.
Well, I don't think so much the pool, but the filters and the chemical chemistry.
Same guys last time, living in the same place. Are these folks supposed to be, providing used guest passes?
Yes, there are 6 students who are members, so they would use the guest
I wasn't here
passes.
Tuesday, otherwise I would address the other issue as well. My concern again is there's chemical reactions that'll happen, certified pool operator, there are chemicals that can happen, and that people will never be aware of. If there's ferrous metal or whatever, it can turn to stuff, change colors of stuff in our pool. So my recommendation is, no, there's a pond across the street that doesn't require any guest pass. And it doesn't require anybody to ask, they can just kind of like, just don't hit the ducks.
Well, they have to be able to see what's going on. And we're talking about the family pool now, not the pool that's actually open.
Well, they technically are both open, because it is there, it has to be maintained and.
But no one
be
swims in it. I mean,
usable.
this would be during a time where it's not, there's no, member use of, swimming because the heater pool.
I understand, trust me, I understand all that. What I'm saying is that there are things that if the construction of the item can be incompatible with pool and you wouldn't know about.
Well, I don't even know what it is, so this is what I'll do, I'll pull the motion and I'll make a motion to table this until February 25th, pending further information on what exactly the vehicle is.
Yvonne, right? Tomorrow, I'm gonna be a judge, Turkey, I'll be, tomorrow I'll be one of the
Wait,
judges.
I need a second on the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, now go ahead.
The thing is, there's really no concern here. One of the criteria for judging tomorrow is they have to be watertight. And so therefore, there's no, the ones who don't make it tomorrow's preliminary, they'll make it on beyond this. And so that's one of the criteria, is they have to be watertight. So none of the circuitry, the motors, the batteries, or any of that. So I think the issue with that is not relevant.
So you're judging this at the local level?
Right,
tomorrow?
we're doing the preliminary design, or preliminary judging tomorrow at the Marine Science Center, and those who pass it will then move on.
What time is that?
It's at 9 o'clock, and they actually put them in the tank they have
Yeah.
down there and run them through that. So I think the criteria is actually passed that, so that's not gonna be a threat to our pool per se.
What kind of materials are they made from?
It's your standard little circuitry. I'm not even sure off the top of my head because I didn't put them together. It's a cell phone battery, or smaller, and again, it's all contained, watertight. That's why actually one of the challenges. How do you make that watertight so the motor doesn't get contaminated or rust, and the battery doesn't leak? Because if the salt water gets the battery, it's fried right there. So I don't think there's. I'd be more than glad to come back and give you some observations of how it goes, but I don't think there's a, and as well, I'm saying, this thing goes all the way up through the national, they're gonna be folks, not even national, international, folks from Australia are gonna come. As talented as our folks are.
A few years ago, didn't they take like state or something?
Yeah, that's what I thought we were saying, as talented as our folks are, they could go a long ways. I mean, we've done very well in the past, county-wise as far as that, so I'd be more than glad to come back and say, hey, here's what happened. Was the ones that leaked aren't gonna go forward.
It'd be great if you could bring some of the kids with you and some of the devices, so we can
More than glad to give you a little demonstration here. We'd like to
So
bring our.
you think they'd be okay with not having, because I'm really leaning toward approving it, but just, to ensure that the questions are answered, would they be okay with waiting until the 25th to get an answer?
I think so, because they have to do it at this level, and then they go on. I'm just not sure of the time frame for that, but.
They'd ask for merchant people kind of.
Yeah, based on our
But,
here.
yeah, my thing, I go back to Rob, so my way of thinking, at least the minimum is some form of insurance or a way. Because even though they're airtight today, or watertight today, doesn't necessarily mean that they will be.
Would I be able to, Jerry, would I be able to go out there tomorrow just to
Sure,
see?
you could be a judge still if you want to. We're looking for judges.
Judge and jury. But that way I have an idea,
Yes.
Same guy from the same place.
Well, you
Again,
haven't looked at the last
my concern is what the external materials are made of and what they would be reacted with. So
Why don't you come out and watch it, see it tomorrow night?
I'm gonna be busy, enjoying our facility at that point in time. I'm scheduled to do something.
Well, I'm gonna go out there at 9, because you said it's set the science station on the beach, you know,
We
and
need
then
to know,
that
we
way
need to
can
know,
see.
what you need to know to make an informed decision.
Yes, I understand. All right, so this will be, so all in favor of tabling this until the 25th? All right, and then we'll go out tomorrow and get some information and bring it back to the board and make sure all those questions are answered, or concerns are addressed.
Special request
Yes.
is about the bottom of our agenda sheet. We would just prefer that maybe just say that in there.
Okay. I think it was just for the, but yes.
I appreciate it, but
Is that 'cause of me?
I don't even get to what money's coming from.
All right, so now we're in open forum, membership discussion.
Jerry Dale, PB 69. This may be off the wall, thinking out of the box a little bit. We have the upcoming February 27th meeting where the county, the consultants, Baskerville will present their finding. Having read through the report and looked at the pictures, I'd like to ask the board on what kind of discretionary funds you have, but it came to my thinking is that what if we had a aerial view and a drone that took pictures of what the areas are talking about and then presented video here. There are several companies in the area, one of which approached me for my business to take pictures. And they have a drone that has loiter time, enough time in the air that they can take pictures of some of these outlets that we talk about that we have to work our way back from Tom King Boulevard. And I think it'd be very beneficial for the homeowners, because I think this room would be packed. It better be, because this affects us all so much, that it would give a better overview of what the problem is rather than these 150,000 that they're taking off of Google or whatnot. I have no idea what it would cost, but I just want to entertain or present the idea to the association, because I know my military days, an aerial overview gives you the big picture so much better than just pictures that Google's taking. So I just throw that out there for consideration. Granted, our timeline is pretty short, but even if we had a little bit, some video of the Tom King and the other outlets they're talking about that we have to work on first, we'd have an idea. I think it'd be a good idea to have some video of how congested places are here, then I've picked the 5 or 7 main points maybe to fly along that road. Point being an aerial picture of a picture of 1,000 words. So if you like, I'd be more than glad to inquire further. I have no vested interest in it, and I have no voice to speak from it, so I approached Yvonne today. So all I've done is they've come to me and I said, hey, what do you guys consider this? I don't know if they do it for free. I don't know if we can negotiate publicity and we'll put half the bill, but you get what you pay for it. I don't think it'd be entirely free.
He asked me, I was at the county commission meeting, he talked to me, and so I said, yeah, for free, yeah. But, they could use our publicity, but then I also told them to come to the board tonight, to the meeting tonight.
It'd be very useful to do that after a major rainstorm.
So, does the board want to, I don't know if we need to vote, but do you want to gather more information?
Yeah, I'd like
Okay,
that.
about the cost and such.
I'm volunteer.
So you'll get with them and ask us?
Yeah, I've already actually texted them, they just didn't get back to me
Okay.
today, but there's other sources other than just these gentlemen here.
Yeah.
See what the feasibility, there's a timeline here too, I don't know what they would edit or put together, but I really think it'd help the membership see the big picture.
We might get somebody to, some people who own drones to do it for free
Yeah,
also.
I don't care where it comes from, I just want to see a video.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, let us know then.
It's in person, 2264 Moray Drive, and it is, I need to say that it is so nice not to see a timer on top of the table. That's my first.
Do I need to get one for you?
I really work much better under pressure. First thing, I would hope that the board would put it on the agenda in the near future to discuss, so we can go forward with a formal request to the county to put some type of path so people coming against traffic on this side of the road will have a walkway, so it would be done in a protected manner. On with what Mr. Gallup just said, I would be happy to join in with whatever work crews we could put together to start cleaning streams and stuff like that. There are things, we can do stuff ourselves.
You weren't here Tuesday, so let me address that, because I mentioned that on Tuesday, and that's already in work. So what I did is I contacted Stephen Furman, because I know that there's been some recent ditch cleaning or drainage cleaning, and asked him if he could send us, as he cleans them, to send us the list. I mentioned it to the board, it was not really a board decision, just as so much as information. And so what April is going to do is have the architectural staff and the maintenance staff, when they're over on the north side, is, when they're doing their rounds, they will go through these areas that have already been cleaned, or cleaned recently. And then if they see anything that is fallen into the path, impeding the flow of water, they'll let maintenance staff know. Maintenance staff will clear it out, and then Steve Furman will send us, as they clean the ditches, send us what that list is so we can add it.
What I'm discussing is maybe some of us homeowners who almost had their houses flooded, are motivated to possibly go out there and clean some ourselves. There are some rules that we have,
I did
can't
ask
use
Steve
power
Furman,
tools, stuff like that.
I did ask Steve Furman about, Holley by the Sea doing it, and he mentioned that there would probably be some liability issues because it's county easement. So you would be assuming all liability, and I can't stop you from clearing an area in front of your home, I'm not going to control, But I had asked Tim about that also, if that was something Holley by the Sea could help with,
Well,
and he
I'm
cautioned us
specifically
against it.
proposing we could get some folks out there to clean out some of the streams and stuff, so long as we get guidance on, get a left and right lane on what we are allowed to do and what the county will allow us to do, so we don't overstep our bounds
Yes,
in EPA.
but what I just said to him is I talked to Steve Furman about the association doing that, and he said no. Essentially, that is not something that he would recommend, given the liabilities of what can happen because it's county. Now, if you'd like to call him and ask him if you as a homeowner can do it,
All right.
I would encourage you to do so, but I just know that he,
Wow.
that when I asked if that was something that our maintenance staff could do, he was not in favor of
All
it.
right, thank you very much.
You get up there again, I'll take more.
I'll get a picture of Lori.
I am Laurie Gallup, 1869 Flamingo Lane. I have a work order that I have put into the county back in November, and I know I copied you on it, and I put it back out again. Hey, what's the status of this work order? And it's this ditch that has been filled up with muck. It's a ditch. Okay. And it's all filled up, the culvert's crammed full, the water's backed up all the way up Water Street, coming around onto Eagle. It's got a ditch full of bedded water that's, gonna be a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. And now the water's going between houses. And it's all because the county won't come and clean out a culvert and the ditch that runs all the way out to Highway 98. Now, I was like, why doesn't the county come clean these things out? And I've been told, and I think this is something we need to look into, that they're not cleaning out anything that's gonna actually go out into, that could potentially go to the Sound, that could potentially wind up in Williams Creek, Tom King Bayou, because if they do, then we're violating the Clean Water Act, because we can't put all this untreated stormwater out into the waterways. So is that what the county's really up to here with this speed tagging?
I'm not sure, but I know Tom King Bayou is one of the main drainage outlets, and it was stated as much in the study, but there's like three
But then
main
why won't
ways
the
that-
county clean it out? We've been working on this isn't, I've been working on stormwater issues in Holley by the Sea for well over 10 years, and it's still the same things, and nothing has been done. I've got emails from Gordon Gooden telling me, oh, it's beavers that crammed up Williams Creek, and that's why it's not draining, and we're gonna have to go see if we can do something about the beavers. Well, if you drive down Highway 98 over by the post office where Williams Creek comes out, if you look to the right, you'll see that the whole water thing is just crammed full of debris. There's an orange construction barrel there. The flow is completely impeded. So why is the county not doing this? I don't understand. And I think this is something that the homeowner association needs to, I think we need an attorney, because we're getting killed here, and it's affecting our property values. So I would suggest that Holley by the Sea get an attorney post haste, and let's get going on this, because all you're gonna get from the county is, oh, no, you can't go clean out your own ditches. No, we have to do that, and they're not doing it. Now, I've got another issue. A block away from my house at the intersection of Marlin and Flamingo, it was wetlands. wet, it's soaking wet. And the builder has raised all the trees, dumped, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 dump trucks full of dirt.
At 6 a.m.
At 6 a.m. in the morning, so they're getting it all mounded up pretty good, but it was wetlands. So when I brought that up, I was told, oh, we had permission to do that. We mitigated those wetlands. Well, with the issues that we have in Holley by the Sea, you cannot mitigate wetlands here. Any wetland that we have needs to be preserved. So however we do that, by putting a moratorium on building until we can get some Florida Forever money in here, or whatever we've got to do to protect this place, we need to do it right away. Building needs to cease.
I understand, and I responded to you. We as a board do not have the authority to suspend, to stop new development. We don't. And if we do, we will be sued, and there is no way in heaven, hell, or earth that we will win that lawsuit. The county can suspend it temporarily for a very specific time, for a very specific period of time, or reason and time that generally can last no more than a year, because then that is considered an inordinate burden on the property owner.
And why haven't we asked the county to do that? We should have done that.
I think that was
a year ago.
mentioned in 2014 about a moratorium on building. And one of the reasons with the drainage study, and speaking of Becky Cato, is this isn't, if they have 12 months, they're not gonna fix the issue in 12 months. So it's more of an open-ended situation where the county doesn't have, okay, it's for 6 months for this specific reason, because in 6 months, the problem will be solved. You and I both know it's not gonna get done in 12 months. So then it would have to be this open-ended moratorium. And even the county doesn't have that authority to do that with the
Maybe the
Florida
state.
law.
But you're saying they've got the authority to do it for 1 year. Well,
For
they
up
need
to a year.
They need to do that. We need to
Yeah.
insist that that happen. Jerry took me on a little tour today, because he rides his bike all over Holley by the Sea, and he came back, about 2 weeks ago, livid about what was going on at, Winfield Road. Is that the name of it? The westernmost road on the north side? You wouldn't believe it. Has anybody seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Did we approve that? Because the whole place is wetlands. And
Well,
it's the
if
same.
it's-
You can't not approve it. I mean, you stand there and Lori and say, you can't mitigate wetlands in Holley by the Sea, but yes, you can. All you have to do is purchase that mitigation property somewhere within this watershed. It has nothing to do with stormwater, it has to do with wetlands.
But
So,
wetlands
yes,
has
you
everything
can.
to do with stormwater.
Tiger
What's
Point,
that?
Publix at Tiger Point's using leisure to mitigate their building over there. I mean,
But what I'm saying is we, the people that live here, need to make this stop. You can't say,
you can't
oh,
stop it, it's law.
yes, you can
It's
stop
property
it.
rights. People have a right to build what they
You
want.
cannot build on wetlands.
You
Yes, you
can,
can.
yes, you can.
You
If-
cannot.
Yes,
You're,
you
you're,
can.
okay, stop, everybody please.
It can be legal all day long, but it
If
is
they're,
not.
if they're issued a building permit, typically this is, and you can correct me on this, but from what I've been told, so you have a half acre, and it's a wetland. The builder can take where the home is going to be developed and clear that, but the rest of it has to remain. So typically that backyard is then left, and the homeowner can come in and cut things down. They can't dig it up, but they can cut it down if they want. But if the county gives them the building permit, then they have met whatever the law states. And if they're given a building permit, we as a board cannot then turn around and say, no, you can't build on your property after they've been, because we don't issue building permits. We have the authority to determine, the size of the homes and architectural issues, but we can't dictate whether someone can build or not. And I know that's not what you want to hear, and I definitely understand your frustration, because I'm frustrated as well. There are certain things that I'll present to the county, and we do this. I read that this was done here, 15 miles west of us, and I don't get a response, or I'm told, no, we can't. So I understand, because I'm continually trying to think of things as well. What is it that we can do to mitigate it? Are we going to eradicate the flooding? No. Just given, the topography of the area, it's never gonna go away, but how best can we mitigate it? So I understand, and there's things that I'm trying to do as well, to help mitigate that, but we can't, we as a board cannot stop building.
Would you go over to Winfield Road, and would you go to Redfield? There's this horrible, has anybody seen the thing in
Say
Redfield?
Red, R-E-D?
Redfield.
I've been on Redfield, what's going on?
There is a lot that has been completely leveled, about 40 or 50, dump truck loads full of sand have been dumped in. There is a huge hole in it now, it's a lake. There's no way, the county then must step in and do something, or the state, but it doesn't matter because we have to do it. We have to do it. Something we can control. When you have bad stormwater issues like we have here, you cannot build a 3,000 square foot house with a 3-car garage and 500 yards of concrete. All this concrete, we can't keep doing this. Then we need to make houses be built on pilings. You need to start making pervious pavers instead of concrete, because the water has to go somewhere.
So what do we do with all the homes that are already here that are impervious concrete to require them to be?
There's nothing you can do about that. I'm talking about future buildings. And then the county also has a report that they did about 2 years ago trying to address the fact that when you have these places that have been developed in the 70s and they don't have the stormwater standards, there has to be a higher standard. And Becky Cato actually wrote this, and of course the county hasn't done anything with it. The thing is too, it's not just Holley by the Sea now. Navarre First Edition, they're going through the same thing, and it's because they were developed in the 70s or the 60s or whenever, and the county's just going along, just getting a quick buck, so they can get a few more tax dollars out of everybody, but we're getting left with the bill. Another thing that the board of directors could do here is insist that sewer be ran. No more building until we get sewer extensions out here. Because the reason why the houses are having to be built 15 feet up in the air is for septic tanks.
There are no, I had gotten a map from the Holley Navarre water system, and there are no, I'll have to pull it out, but there's a section of Holley by the Sea that has no sewer lines in it. And, it's one of those, it's cost prohibitive, because it would take thousands of dollars to run that line, so who bears that cost?
Well, we could have applied for restore funds for that.
Actually, it would cost millions of dollars because they use these sewage treatment plants. You can't handle what they have right now.
Yeah, they can.
And another thing, in this county, if a piece of property is a lot of record, which is unfortunately everything over here, they have to issue a permit if they can mitigate for it, if they can meet the requirement. So that's where the county's stuck too. Not that I'm standing up for them.
Well, did you know that the waste treatment plant that we have here in Holley by the Sea actually does have capacity?
It does.
In fact, there's a plan right now for a little back room deal to get the waste treatment off of Navarre Beach and run it through our waste treatment plant that we have over here.
Well,
So-
I don't know about
So
that.
there is plenty of capacity.
Well, read about
But
it.
I quite frankly am quite happy to have septic, because everybody I know that's on sewage has to keep getting their grinder replaced every couple of years.
Well, unfortunately, at my house, every time that it rains and it floods, my septic is unusable. And then that means that effluent is getting out into the groundwater and out into our neighborhoods, and that's kind of third world country living for me. So I would like to have sanitary sewer here. And I also know the EPA is going to one day make us have sanitary sewer, so why not go ahead and use some of this restore money that we've got coming down the path, or use some HMGP funding. It's in the Basketball Donovan study that we need to do sewer extensions.
In order to qualify for restore, your house has to have been built before 2003.
I think yours was
Restore?
House.
You're thinking of Restore Northwest Florida, and that was two different things.
She's talking about the BP Restore.
BP restore funding?
You're talking about the Restore Northwest.
Unless you're talking about restore Northwest Florida.
Well, just putting it out there that it's a huge problem, and as the board of directors, of this association, that's our number one thing. And I know that we're gonna get us a nice little dog and pony show on the 27th, and it's gonna be, $86 million, so gosh, we don't have any money, goodbye. Just like they do with everything. but don't accept it. Don't accept that, because they need to pay for what they've done to Holley by the Sea. They've allowed it, it's through their building standards.
Well, I'll tell you straight up, I am not willing, personally, I am not willing to put this HOA in legal jeopardy to all of these major home builders, some of the largest in the country, by saying, we're gonna step in and put a moratorium on something when we're not legally allowed to do it. I mean, I'm all for pressure in the county. And one of the things that we need to do is to have the county come up with a height above grade restriction. That would certainly help things. But I think we would put this association in very strong legal jeopardy were we to do that.
I think you'd be surprised.
Yeah. I think probably not.
I was told today by a very
We have a
reputable
difference of
source,
opinion.
by a very reputable source, that many builders, there's nothing left to build on here.
That's
So-
correct.
So the folks that are doing this with the wetlands, and okay, maybe you mitigated it, but are you informing the consumer that this place is built on wetlands? I mean, this is something that we need to address. The people need to know. You're living in a
Well, that's not
wetland.
up to the HOA to do it. It's up to the seller to.
It would be interesting though to find out, how many lots are left that have been platted and, ready for development. I mean, that would be an interesting question to ask.
And what their current status is of the wetlands. We were very surprised, find out, we thought it was, but then we found out conclusively it wasn't wetland that they mitigated.
Because
And
if
where?
they mitigated it within Holley by the Sea, we would have known about that.
But they don't have to. All they have to do is within the East Bay watershed,
Yeah, but
which is a really large area.
people can say they mitigated and you need to show evidence that they were even asked to mitigate or even know that.
And the other thing is, if somebody mitigated for that quarter or for that half-acre piece of property, the usual ratio is 10-to-1. So they've had to purchase 10 times that property to mitigate for that half-acre.
Well, when we
Depending
have-
on the quality of the wetlands.
when we have builders come in, and it's obviously wetlands, because this lot I'm talking about is obviously
Well, there's plenty of
wetlands.
them. Look at
Do
Sherwood
we,
and,
do we say, let me see your mitigation plan?
we don't, but they'd have to have, in order to get a permit from the county, they have to have the proper permits, including one from DEP. If DEP has issued one, then they would have to have it. Whether the county asked them for their mitigation property, well, if they have a permit from DEP would have had to have seen that, and that mitigation would have had to be on the property record.
Well, wouldn't it behoove the homeowners association to ask to see those permits and
But we
then
don't
perhaps have them
issue
posted?
building permits.
Have them posted on the lots.
Some of the homeowners associations don't think this is an issue, and if there are private citizens who wanna band together, they should probably take it up with the county, and they can get their lawyer and take it up to the county and say, and take it up there. But not everybody in this room is agreeing with you.
Well, is there anyone in the room that does agree with me? You, ma'am, you, sir, these two, anybody else?
You have
I
to.
got an idea.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
But when I get a chance, I was gonna come up there and say,
Okay.
we just sold 2 lots that we own. If it's that important to the HOA to stop the building, then we should raise the assessments and buy every remaining lot, then the HOA will own them and have total control over them. That's the legal route to stop the building.
well,
If
that
that's
would be,
important to the owners, do it that way and protect our homes.
that would also be a good use of restore funding. We should put in for that, and we should put in for HMGP funding to do that as well.
And then the county would own the property, and they could do with the property what they want.
We could put in as an HOA to purchase it ourselves. But go ahead.
That would-
Thank you. This is interesting.
Let me get your number,
Thank you.
because I'm getting a lawyer.
All right, anyone else?
I just have a question. The
Yes.
talk to
Would
anything
you
about it
come up,
Tuesday?
please, so I can hear?
Did we have a chance to discuss this as we voted on?
Yes, we discussed all items on Tuesday, and then we vote on Thursday.
Right, well, we reworded this, I thought we were gonna be able to discuss it after it was reworded, is that not true? I didn't have a copy of the lined out.
It's the proxy.
Proxy. You want the proxy? Well, that was, when the motion, when I asked about the motion and it came up, I asked,
No, I gave them a copy on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I asked if there was any discussion, and no one said anything about
I didn't
discussion. Apologize for not,
Well,
I,
you have an
repeated the
issue?
motion.
Can I take a comment on it?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
I mean, so, just one, and I apologize. What you're proposing is that, if 25% of the membership answers, and then 2/3 of that agree, then the vote will pass, and this can be amended, is that correct?
No, it would take 51% of the total membership to get to the point where 2/3 of the people that attend the meeting. Is that right?
This,
For this one.
Yes, sir.
this one requires the current
Majority.
threshold.
Right.
51%.
If it passes, and let me repeat this so I can get it right, 2/3 of the entire, well, the board of directors, and not less than 2/3 of the membership has to respond. Of that, a minimum 25%, no, sorry.
You got that backwards.
I got that
Oh,
backwards.
yes.
And not less than 2/3 of a minimum, got it, okay. So 25% of the membership would have to respond, and of that 25%,
Right.
it would have to be 2/3 that would vote in favor of it, which takes it to about 900 votes. And Pete, is he still here?
Yeah.
The way they looked at that is they looked at the voting history and the, turnout to see if it would be a feasible number. And I think he said the most that we ever had was what, 1,200? 1,500, and so, and that's unusual. So it was trying to find something that could be reachable without being willy-nilly.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I do understand all that, I don't disagree with it, but here's my concern. I mean, if it passes, then you're gonna have about 785 people determining the HOA, and they can amend this with 10% of the voting population. If I read this correctly, 10%, so 27 people can make a motion to amend this, and if they get 785 people to vote on it.
No, it would take more than that. It would take, closer to 900.
Well, you got 900 out of 4,700 determining. the
Yes, and
HOA.
on average, for just your board of directors, we're lucky if you get 400 people responding.
I understand that, but.
So you think we should leave it the way it is now? Because we've got issues that we can't deal with, and that it changed every year, 2 years, because of policy making, because of covenants, the way they're written.
Right,
So
and I apologize, I don't know what the issues are, no.
we've got, I just dealt with a neighbor today, like a parking.
Mhm.
I mean, the covenants are quite clear, but then we've issued parking permits, and he's like, I'm looking at this RV, but
Right.
yet that RV is parked in accordance with the parking policy, but then we could change it tonight if we wanted to. I mean, your sign policy, I mean, there's so many policies that we deal with, the usage policy. I mean, if we really wanted to push the covenants, we could just rescind this policy that we approved, although we did make sure that, for myself, I wanted to make sure that we had the authority to do so. But if we wanted to push it, husband, wife, couple of kids, that's it, and within a home, as far as owners.
I'm not questioning your intent.
Yeah.
But my concern is, I mean, prior boards, when I read the paper, and I've not been involved, it's almost entertaining, some of the stuff that's happened. But going forward, if this is in place, I mean, you have a very small number of people that can potentially do a lot of damage.
So what do you think would be a good number?
I didn't come with recommendations, just concerns. But you have to agree that this could potentially be very harmful going forward, because you have a very small number of people manipulating the HOA going forward based on if they like something or not.
And that is something that we looked at, and Pete can talk to that, because there was a covenants committee that stood up, and they spent a lot of time, looking at the data and the statistics to try to find a good number, because that was my concern, is I don't want it so low that anybody can come in and change it willy-nilly.
Right.
Because that's not good. But I want it reachable, that with a little bit of effort, it can be done.
Mhm.
And so he can talk to, you know, how they came up with this number.
Well, the other thing, I mean, the people that don't participate and they don't vote and they don't show interest, I mean, I would think it's clean to look out for their interest even though they're not interested. When I think about them not voting, they're kind of voting for the status quo, whether they're involved in the.
No, they don't even know what the status quo is.
I'm not
They
arguing.
don't, they just don't know. I
I
mean,
know.
we send them something in the mail and they toss it. I don't know how many times I'm told, well, I need to get information out. We post it on Facebook, it goes on Holley by the Sea News, it goes out in the emails, and then I'm told I'm still not doing a good enough job. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Come to your house and put in the sign?
Well, a lot of people, owners, I would say, they're, the least thing on their priority list is they're a lot on about to see what's going on with HOA.
But this is where they live. I mean,
Well,
how do we get people involved and interested to do this?
Well, I mean, I think the first few negative policies that come out of this, you're gonna see people get involved, because it doesn't affect them. But, like the guy with the RV next door, doesn't affect 4710 people, it affects one. See, that's the conflict. But all that aside, I understand, and I think you're trying to do an admirable job, but my concern is that going forward with boards, maybe their intentions are not as honorable, have a lot of potential power to manipulate this document.
You know, in any election, a small portion of the populace controls what happens. Whether it's in this little microcosm we're in here, or a general election. If you look at voter turnout, a certain number of people influence the outcome. And
Well,
that's,
like we're calling it, this document.
this is a microcosm and concern, you know, when you take it in the overall picture of a general election, say.
I mean,
We're still,
I think
we're
your
still having the
concerns are
repercussions
valid.
of people who didn't get involved in 2014 and what happened then.
I think your concerns are definitely valid, I do, and I don't want you to think, you know, cause that was something, and you can ask Pete, he'll tell you, that was something that I stressed, you know, going forward this, we have got to find a number that what you're saying doesn't happen. You know, that it's high enough that the people who want to, you know, have their own agenda and just be dictatorial, if you will, they would have to go out and do some work to get it to pass.
we'll
you
put
know.
some safeguards in there, like for a period of time or specific issues that maybe the 10 things we want to get addressed, but not open-ended. Because to get it amended after this is gonna be difficult.
Well, if this passes, you know, if it's determined that it's abused, and as you say, bears out, then at some point another board's gonna come on and say, no, we need to raise the threshold again. And if it is abused, as you say, then there will be an outcry within the community, you know, and then we'll have to go back up.
Two of those. I just want to express my concern.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Pete Peters, AIM 2861 PGA. I'm just going to make the comments that the thresholds that have been proposed are more stringent than the thresholds that in the county to elect commissioners, to raise sales taxes, to vote whether we're wet or dry. It's more stringent than the requirements for the state of Florida to amend their constitution. Because in the county, in a general election, the normal turnout is less than 45%, and it takes a bare majority of that 45%, or 23%, to pass things on a county in a general election. Statewide, I don't know what the turnout is, but it's certainly less than half of the voters statewide, and it only takes 60% to make a constitutional amendment in the state. So it is the contention of the Covenants Committee and myself that, considering the voting history where participation forever has been between 400 or 500, and one time at approaching 1,500, one time right after the first recall when it approached 1,400, but most of the other time, participation is between 7 and 1,100. This raises the participation above 1,100, it's close to 1,200, and it requires 2/3. I believe that's sufficient, and if it proves in the future not to be sufficient, as she said, it will be easier then to raise it in the future than under these new standards. And it boils down to that there are so many problems that need to be addressed, they need to be addressed. Any questions?
Has any vote passed with the majority of the population or the membership thus far?
No.
No.
What's it gonna cost to send out the proxies?
5,000.
Yeah, because there have been previous amendments. I think the last one was 2014. Wasn't there an amendment?
Yeah, that was, 2 years ago, there was like 4 amendments all
And,
bundled
yeah.
together.
And not
But
one
there
of
was a
those.
lot of discontent, and participation on that vote was 600, 500 or 600.
I mean,
The best one is in 2010, there was a in 2010, single issue, changing the requirement to make amendment changes in the future. 2010, the participation approached 1,500, and of those that participated, 89% were in favor. So, I mean, I think the people want to make the covenants easier to change, and the people that just throw it in the trash is what's stopping it.
They're voting.
If they don't wanna play, that's
They pay
fine.
$4.25 a year, just like we do.
Yeah. If people don't want to return yes or no, that's fine. Just because the threshold is 1,200, that doesn't mean if 3,000 people are concerned, all 3,000 people can vote. The threshold is then still 2/3.
That's not the concern. It's just that going forward, at some point in time, there's gonna be a very small percentage of people that can make the decisions.
And as it is with the county and state and national elections, it's a very small percent of the people that are making the decision.
That's not how we're structured right now.
I share some of your concern.
And last, just the cost, if this has never been successful in the past, since 1973, we never had enough of the population to vote or to approve it. I mean, why are we pursuing this avenue again?
Well, then I have to ask you, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or snarky or any of that, but to me, what do we do then? We do nothing, and to me, that's not an option, because, when I ran for the board, I was asked about this, and I said, you wanna fix a lot of the issues that we deal with, the boards deal with on a regular basis with policy issues, and homeowners not knowing if they're coming or going one year from the next, because depending on your board, it just changes willy-nilly. You fix the covenants. You start there, because those are the documents that this association has to adhere to. And the only way to do that, based on the history, is to work on lowering that threshold. Because he voted no on the usage policy, I had to go to the attorney, because I was like him, the usage policy, this is what it states in the covenants. And then he's, yelling at me like, well, that's not, or not yelling, but, disagreeing. But I know that if we enforced them as the covenant stated, we get some turnout for this. But I don't wanna use that, I don't wanna leverage or anything, but I understand that, without that firm support from the attorney that said, yes, you have the authority to do this, I would have never put forth that kind of usage policy, because that's one of the biggest areas. But I guarantee you, 2 years from now, another board can come along and say, no, we don't like this, we're gonna change it to something else. And then the homeowners are always left in the state of flux. They don't know if they're coming or going. And that is my goal, is to have some solid covenants that recognize people's property rights, that recognize that we're in an association, and as such, there needs to be a common standard, but something that's achievable, that's doable. Because right now, it's just, it's a hodgepodge.
I'm on your side, I agree with you, 110%. I just think there has to be a different way besides.
Well, then what way is there? I don't
Hold
know
on,
any
hold
other
on.
way.
Can I
to say something because this is important and not to be obtuse. I was involved in the recall. We got 2,400 and some votes for the recall for it, plus more. So you can achieve the level we need to pass this if we put an effort through, and it'll be an easy vote because it's a positive change for the most part. And the threshold issue, I share a concern about that, but I've given some thought to it. Here's the reality. We have so many renters and so many people who don't even live here that have no interest and don't care what happens. So when you lower this threshold, who's going to vote? The people that live here, who raise our families here, that are involved in the community. So you're going to get the best people voting when there is a need for a change.
I agree 110%, but you can't take a vote away from people that don't vote for not voting.
Yes, you can.
We're going to give them the opportunity to vote to take it away.
Hang on, this isn't taking away a vote, because when the ballot goes out, let's say this is successful, right? And the proxy goes out, people vote, and it's successful, we amend the covenants, the threshold is lowered. When an amendment is proposed, it goes out to the 4,700 lot owners, so we're not taking away anybody's right. You know, they still have the right to vote, to not vote, to status quo, but we're just saying, you know, and you know, I mean, so we're not, I don't want you to think we're taking away people's right to vote.
That's not, it's misinterpreted, and by not voting, they're actually.
Well, yeah, that's participation. You know, not voting is definitely a form of participation.
That's why my concern is you have a very small group of members that can make the changes to the covenant.
It will be a bigger group than having 5 board members, 3 of 5 board members, making the changes via policy and then changing them back every other year.
Thank you.
I'm not just talking about these kind of policies, the issues that you're talking about now. Going forward with regards to anything that some board and 900 people want to change.
Well, see, Pete, and thank you, you bring up a good point that I had, you know, and it's a way of looking at it. Right now, 5 members, regardless of what you say, can pretty much do what we want. We can make policy because that's pretty much how it's been done, just, you know, whatever, and then we don't know. But right now, if there's a proposed amendment, y'all decide. It goes to you. And so it is a bigger number than the 5 sitting up here. And we know that depending on who's sitting up here, good, bad, indifferent, you know, I mean, you've got the gamut of people who sit on boards. But then it shifts responsibility to the homeowners in a greater number, and then they're deciding. So that, I mean, that's a good way. That's a good point.
And a final comment, I don't know if there's any mathematicians or number crunchers here. I did that as a side thing. Looking at this, you all hear about national polls and stuff. Polling statistics, if our sample size is 25% of 4,700 and our threshold is 2/3, that means by, you know, national polling mathematics, if we forced everybody to vote, all 4,700, if we made them vote 99 times out of 100, the result would be within plus or minus 4% of 67% in favor. So if we forced 4,700 people to vote, worst case, 99 times out of 100, it would be less than 63% in favor. The current standard is 51% in favor. So it's actually a higher standard, it truly is. It's just, it allows for, if people don't want to play, they don't get a say.
Exactly.
That's such a bad way of saying it. All right, are there any other comments? I have the cards here from Sean Ward, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I'm really doing them. I'm just loving y'all come, because typically there's no one out there. So thank you very much. All right, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.